All right. Good evening. We are back. I survived camp.
Yeah.
Yes,
It is
slumming at Austin P.
Slumming at Austin P.
In dorms.
In the dorm, living the dorm life for 3 days, and got a lot done.
Did you like call your mom for money for old time's sake?
I did. I did. I called her for money. We had dining hall food. It was great, man.
I feel like you're overselling that.
I'm definitely overselling it. It was the most okay.
It was completely
okay.
Yeah.
The okayest food I've ever had.
Yeah.
The okayest food ever. Pizza was okay. The soft serve ice cream was the premier item.
All right.
Well, that would be, yes.
So, we are SEC After Dark. We are presented by DeadSoxy. Hey there, college sports fans. Want to show your allegiance down to your socks? DeadSoxy's got you covered. Socks with vibrant socks in your team's colors, whether it's purple and gold if you're an LSU person, crimson or cardinal. DeadSoxy is the place to go. Found a pair you like? Subscribe for big-time perks with a constant 25% discount, early access to exclusive styles, and, of course, free shipping. Plus, we welcome new members with a free gift. So why wait? Find your favorite socks at DeadSoxy.com right now. And as always, stay soxy. So stay soxy. So a lot has happened since we last left you. I've made a few bets on betonline.ag. By the way, we were also presented by them. They won a few things. I actually bet on the Tigers. Won a couple things there. Successfully bet on the Tigers, I should say. And things have been going well. We had camp, like I said, at Austin P. Survived that. But we have an action-packed show for you guys. We got team previews. We're going to preview the SEC East. If you want a more in-depth preview of the Georgia Bulldogs, we'll talk about it a little bit here at some point. But Bleav In Georgia Dawgs to get the full extensive previews, as Israel and I are going to start ramping that up. Of course, we're going to talk about Ole Miss a little bit. However, if you want to deep dive into the Ole Miss Rebels, listen to Stephen Willis on Locked On Ole Miss, and Tide Talk Live if you want to hear about the Crimson Tide and the quarterback battles they're going over. Of course, we will talk about that as well, but him and Stacey do a really good job at Tide Talk Live, and they'll talk more about the Tide and dive into every position, everything fall camp for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And if you want to talk Tennessee, well, unfortunately, this is your stop because Jeb talks about old school movies, I think. Yes. So,
eventually he will.
Eventually he will.
He's building a set. His set is coming along pretty cool. I like his critter in the background, and he's got a Necronomicon.
There we go.
And,
I like this. Mm-hmm. I was starting to think that Jeb building a set was kind of like the checks in the mail.
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, Steve and his wife came over and forced it on me. So, what are you gonna do?
Good for Steven and Becky.
I had to go to IKEA. Okay, it was not fun.
Yes. So that is very, very good. IKEA is such a place. It's like the casino for women, where you get in there. There's like no outside windows. There's no clocks. It's just one big maze. And like you could be in there 4 hours pass by and you would have no idea. It is the most exhausting place on earth.
They're good at it too, because we walked in where what we wanted wasn't too far in. So we looked around, found what we wanted, and said, okay, this looks good. We're going to buy these. And they said, well, you got to go on through to the end, and then you can pick them up yourself right down there and pay for them and leave. Through to the end is like another 2-hour walk. I mean, we seriously just kept walking and walking and walking in a maze that goes around in circles, like concentric circles as it goes down. It was amazing. Like we couldn't find the end, and there was no way to like get out of that and just leave, because the end is where you got out of the building. It's very good and very frustrating.
Very frustrating. Speaking of walking around in a maze and not knowing how to get out, and not knowing what's what, and being very frustrated, the four teams we're going to talk about often do this throughout the courses of their season. Steve is going to talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Jeb, you are going to talk about them Gators. Jake, you draw the short straw, and you're talking Mizzou, and I'm talking Vandy.
No, I think you draw a short straw.
Vandy's more interesting than Missouri.
I'll talk to you about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Can't
I'll
wait.
talk to you about that. Yeah.
can't wait. You know what, Jeb? You want to start with the Gators?
By the
We're gonna go
way,
ahead and jump into it?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
By the way, real quick, before we start that, y'all
Yeah.
smell that?
What's that?
It's football season, baby. Football
It's
season
here.
is here.
Oh,
It is freaking here.
I thought I
Fall
thought
camps
I
have
smelled
opened
the
up.
smokers going
Yes.
with ribs and
Yeah.
But-
Yes.
Hey, before we start our previews, Chauncey
Yeah,
has an
Chauncey.
interesting question.
okay.
Says, speaking of your betting sponsors, do you guys feel unders will be hitting early in the season due to the clock changes?
Yes, a
Yeah.
lot of
Ooh.
unders will hit probably.
Mhm.
Early on, especially some of these matchups. Like I think Florida and Utah are going to hit the under, and just because of the new clock rules and how sloppy things are, that game you might want to take Florida plus 10 because I think that'll be a tight one. Not because Florida's any good, just because it'll be a weird game.
Actually, before we start with the previews, and I know this was my idea to do the previews, but there's some news that happened today
Okay, let's get into that.
that is kind of SEC after dark, kind of ACC after dark with the
Oh, you're talking about Florida
Pac-12.
State.
Yes.
Yes.
Florida State just basically said, we are gone from the ACC. We just need a place to crash for now until we figure out how to do it.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do they not have a big TV contract they're locked into?
No. They're in the ACC.
You're talking about the ACC, Jeb.
Okay, that's a good.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
You spent too much
Pac-12
time
had-
constructing those bookcases. You didn't realize what the ACC is all about here.
ACC is a place where it costs $150,000 a year to go to college, and they make about $2 million a year in football.
Wow.
Yeah, so they don't make money, but they charge an arm and a leg. They actually probably make money off of tuition in that conference.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Well, with some of the schools in the research triangle, yeah, probably.
And the nerds.
And the nerds, yeah.
Nerds.
They may
Okay.
they give you a big discount for in-state tuition, I think. They kind of have to.
Yeah,
They kind
I
of
can
have
see
to.
that.
They kind of struggle a little bit.
So, where do you think they're going?
Yeah, I don't know, but the rumor that they're talking about is the Big Ten is going to come in and get Clemson and Florida State. And then you look at it and you're like, neither one of those schools are AAU schools.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and would the
They-
Big Ten completely change who they are to take a school with a clown college?
Yeah, they seem like they fit a lot better in the SEC than the Big Ten.
Yeah. And they absolutely
Huh.
would. And then the news came out that the Big Ten was exploring expanding for Cal, Stanford, Oregon, and Washington. And that makes complete sense. After
Yeah,
they
that
got
one I
USC and UCLA.
Yeah, they're trying to build their West Coast brand there. I think if they're going to nab any teams from the ACC, it would be those Northeastern teams, right? Like Pitt and Syracuse and Boston College. And
They probably
And-
try to get Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And after that TV contract that the Pac-12 just come out with, I don't blame the other schools for looking because that was awful.
Yeah, you think the Pac-12 is just going to die? Big 12 will
Yeah.
take what teams that the Big Ten
it's
does?
dead. It's just a matter of
Right.
how long it can stay before they pull the plug. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And everybody's talking about the storyline is like, hey, will Arizona be going to the Big 12? And I was like, no, that's not the story. The story is, will Oregon and Washington basically end up in the Mountain West?
No, because they're going to go Big Ten. They're going to eventually go Big Ten. Like they're not gonna
Eventually,
end up in the
but
Mountain
but basically the Pac-12 remnants, the ones that are going to be left over, that might as well be the WAC, the old school WAC.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
let's see
Yeah.
what teams are going to end up in the Mountain West. Like, I think nobody's going to want Arizona, even though they're pretty good at baseball. And
Or
these-
Arizona's going to the Big 12.
Yeah.
yeah. So Arizona's going to go to the
basketball,
Big 12. That means Arizona State will probably follow them. Utah, that'll be an interesting one. Didn't they turn down the Big 12?
Yes, and they made a scene about it. It is very reminiscent of what Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky did to the Sun Belt whenever they left for Conference USA. Basically, nana boo boo out the door, and then whenever they wanted to go back to the Sun Belt's like, nah, we're good.
And now
You
the
should
Sun
burn
Belt
those
is
bridges, man.
now the Sun Belt's the premier, the SEC of the G5. Dummies.
Man,
Well,
and they've just owned FCS over the last 10 years. It's amazing. They've just owned FCS, and they've built their brand with like the Coastals and people like that. And
James Madison, like they're picking them, and then they're going to probably set their sights on the Missouri Valley and start picking those teams off. And they're doing really well for themselves, more so than any other conference. Like if I'm the Mountain West, like, well, if I'm the Mountain West, I'm licking my chops trying to get Washington State and Oregon State and Cal and I don't know
Stanford,
what the heck
maybe?
Utah's going to do. Do you think the Big Ten makes a run at Utah? You think they're trying to like hold out for the Big Ten?
yeah, they probably are trying to hold it. I don't think the Big Ten's going to be making that run.
I don't think so either. Like I found that hard. Like that's not they're not really good at anything else.
And we had a question up from Chauncey that says, do you want any other teams in the SEC? I feel like there's enough teams not playing each other as is, and now we add Texas and Oklahoma. Well, next year, whenever they switch to the 9-game schedule and all that, it's going to be set up to where you have 3 rivals, which will take care of everybody, and then you'll play every team in the conference every other year. You would go through the entire roster, but that will be messed up if they expand again. Because
that's what I was going to say. That works for Texas and Oklahoma, but what happens after that?
Yeah,
because it does seem like we're building these super conferences, but
Right.
I think pods are the answer, honestly. As much as I hate pods, but 4 or 5 team pods, you play 4 teams in your own division every year, your own pod, and you just pick a pod the neck of somebody where else, and every 3 years you should play the whole conference.
That could work.
That could work if expanded, I guess. Right?
Yes, and if you do it, you only can expand by 4 teams at a time. You can't have an 18-team conference. It has to go from 16 to 20. It has to go from 20 to 24, and you need that for the geographic pods that are being built. You've got to be very careful with what you're doing, and honestly, the SEC probably needs to get away from geography if they go to a pod system and just put teams in the pod, because it doesn't necessarily matter which one you're in. Just do the competitive balance thing and let everybody go. Try and keep the rivals as close together as possible.
Yeah, I mean, travel in the conference is no big deal whatsoever. No big deal. So I think when you look at it, it's kind of a silly thing, but I guess if it works, I'm all for whatever works. I mean, if it brings us good football and you get to see Georgia finally play at Kyle Field, then I think it would work.
Well, that's a tradition unlike any other at this point.
I know, right?
Nah.
Georgia not playing Texas A&M.
Oklahoma, Premier Stone. Look at this. Oklahoma.
I don't go back to East-West. I like the single table because you're going to get, like, a lot of times you get the best 2 teams in the conference are in the same division. Like it happened. It seems to happen every single year because, like, Bama and LSU, best teams in the league a lot of years, didn't get the chance to play each other in the SEC championship. Georgia, Tennessee this past season, best 2 teams in the SEC, didn't get a chance to play each other in the conference title game. I just think with the single table, you get a true SEC championship. Like there's been years like the one that Georgia broke the streak on where they won in 2002 against Arkansas. Like that Arkansas team was not good. They won the right games, but they were not good.
Well, this is the thing. If the SEC were expanded and to the point where you had the pods on everything, I think the SEC should have semifinals and then a championship game. The winners of each pod should play each other. It should be a 1-4, 2-3 type situation like the CFP playoff now. The 2 winners play for the SEC championship, and then you go to the college football playoff.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's what needs to happen. And people are going to say, hey, what about the kids? Screw the kids. They're making money.
They're professionals now at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
They want to play in a league that plays 17 regular season games. Don't give me wear and tear.
Yeah.
Steve, this guy knows you apparently. Oklahoma Premier Stone does. It's Jamie.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Jamie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jamie. Yeah,
That's Jamie Meredith.
yeah. What's up, Jamie?
He was in our Discord live last night, which was like rocking. We did it for over an hour. It was fantastic.
Steve.
Nice.
You act like I've met Jamie Meredith before, and I should know who Jamie Meredith is. No offense, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really good guy. He's one of my Ole Miss peeps.
There you go.
Hmm.
Ole Miss. Yeah, I've been getting in your Ole Miss Discord chat a little bit, and it's been fun.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
Discord has grown, Steve. That's a great idea. A great idea.
we're up to nearly 200 members at this point.
Oh, all right.
So what these 200 members need to do is they need to subscribe and like all of our stuff. Like regardless, we're trying to build a true SEC network. So all you Ole Miss people, like let's build a really good SEC. I mean, obviously you can keep, I want the SEC After Dark page to be just as big as the Ole Miss page because I want community. Like as SEC fans, even though we hate each other on select Saturdays for one day a year, I think it's always fun to hear other fans' perspectives. I always love talking to opposite fans, right? I always love hearing, except Florida fans, they're just too busy hitting me with beer bottles. But my principal is a Gator fan, so he might be tuning in tonight. I don't know, but
see, Tennessee fans are nicer. We use mustard bottles; they're not as hard.
That's true.
They use golf balls though.
And hating me is an Auburn tradition. That's a 365, 24/7 gig.
I love it.
Yeah. But I just, in all seriousness, I just like hearing other fans and hearing other perspectives and listening to other things and not just burying my head into the Georgia Bulldog stuff as my set would likely suggest that I do. I actually don't. But it's fun. So let's get some people there. Let's get some people subscribed to our channels. Tide Talk Live, Bleav In Georgia Dawgs, SEC After Dark. Let's get these other pages up and going, and the rest will kind of fall in place. So, do we want to start on our team previews now?
Yes, real quick though, Chauncey, do not say that. If you say that 3 more times, it's like Beetlejuice; they will appear. Do not tempt fate like that.
Right.
Oh man. All 4 of you do a great job. No Aggies, please. I don't know any Aggies. Well, I have one cousin that's an Aggie. He's probably he's probably the most normal Aggie I've ever met. But
I know a couple.
That's a valedictorian of summer school argument.
I mean, I didn't say it wasn't. I just it is what it is. I mean, you take that for what it's worth. So
you know what we need to have eventually. We'll probably wait till right before the season happens. We should have like cult rankings inside the SEC.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know about that.
Just
why waste any time? A&M's going to be number 1.
A&M's 1, Auburn's 2.
Auburn is absolutely number 2.
State's 3. Mississippi State's 3.
Yeah. Tennessee's up there too.
Yeah.
Tennessee just thinks it's 1999 and nothing happened after their national title.
For a long time, Georgia was a cult with the whole 1980 stuff. People were stuck in the 19. Like I'm even wearing my.
Yeah,
we're not a cult just because we hibernated for a decade. All right,
a decade.
Just a decade. Yeah.
Shut up.
Decade of some change.
Yeah.
They still have commemorative license plates in Tennessee of the 1998 national title.
Cass is in.
What's up, Cass? You're just in time. So who wants to start this thing off? Right, we go into some team previews.
Let's go into some team previews.
I'll start because why not? Because you gave Florida to the guy who doesn't know as much about football as everybody else. So let me start off, and we'll get that one out of the way.
I don't think Florida knows as much about football as everybody else. So I think.
Hey, Anthony Richardson got picked 4th, so maybe we don't all know anything about football.
I watched him play, so
yeah.
Apparently, I don't know if it's just a big fugazi, but apparently he's lighting it up at Colts camp. But either that or the Colts PR team is really good. One of the two.
Well, I think that's the case. They're all prepared about what was coming, and also their defense could be shit.
Mm-hmm.
Good
clean rating.
Yep, right there, 20 minutes in. That was me that time.
Yeah,
I did hear as soon as they put on pads, though, he got a little more lost. But anyway, that was just one time. So who knows? Who knows how it's going? I mean, we know how Florida went last year. That was 6-6, and just 2-5 in the SEC. I think they were rough last year. So I can't imagine this year being that bad. But at the same time, while digging into this and trying to figure out what's going on with Florida this year, you don't really see where they've really improved on anything. Maybe last year was a fluke and they didn't need to improve as much, but I don't know. Looking at it, they do have, I think their weakness is still going to be offense as opposed to defense. So I'll really dig into the offense a little bit first and then we'll end on a high note with the defense. But offensively, they do have some good skill players, it looks like. They've got that and I do not know how to pronounce any of these names, so this is going to get bad. But like Ricky Pearsall, thank you. Is kind of a playmaker, wide receiver, and I like him. They have a couple of younger wide receivers that haven't, really produced as much yet, but they were highly ranked recruits that they could come in. I remember their names like Caleb Douglas, Marcus Burke, people like that. So it's they have some playmakers on the outside. Their running backs are actually going to be a strength this year. They had a Raging Cajun follow Billy Napier over to the team, and he had a really good year last year. What was his name? Montreal Johnson. That was his name. Had a pretty good year last year. He should be just as good this year. They have another one of the ETNs out there, Trevor this time, I think. ETN, who could end up being a pretty explosive playmaker too. So I bet he gets a lot more work in than he did last year. They even got a little transfer from Tulane, who is actually a fairly big dude. Cam Carroll was his name. And that gives them a little more of a power back to go with their two more explosive, fun, fast backs. So, honestly, a good stable of running backs, and I think that running game is something they're going to have to lean on pretty hard this year. And so that's looking good for them. The problem is their two big question marks are places you don't want to have question marks on offense. The first is the offensive line. It looks like they're pretty much completely replacing the offensive line this year. They do have some good transfers coming in, so some experienced players, which will hopefully help. They still recruit pretty well, so they've got talent. It's just having to put together a whole new offensive line after a rough year anyway, and especially when you consider the fact that they're doing this with a quarterback that's definitely going to be less mobile than the one they had last year. Anthony Richardson was just an athletic freak, and we just don't see that with any of the replacements they have behind them. Maybe better polished passers, or at least that's what they're going to hope, but definitely not the guys who can move as much. So,
not the guy they got starting right now.
No.
Well, and that's where they seem to be pinning their hopes right now. There's a Graham Mertz who transferred over. He was highly recruited coming out of high school. That's the best thing I can say about him. He has not lived up to it yet.
He lived up to it for one game.
One game. Yeah,
his very first start against Illinois as a freshman. You saw him play, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy's going to be special." And that was the last of Graham Mertz.
Yeah, I think Jack Miller may be their way forward.
Yeah, and he got a little bit of experience last year, so he's there competing for it. And you're right, maybe he looks like he's probably going to be a little more athletic than Graham Mertz, but I don't know. We'll see about his passing. But again, he's behind a line that's going to have to kind of gel quickly, which could mean their first game at Utah is a little rough all around. Yeah. In fact, I would expect it to be. Because there's just, like I said, there's just too many new people here, even if they do have experience. Now, Florida hit the transfer portal pretty hard. They not quite as good as like Ole Miss at that, but they definitely brought in a lot of transfers. So they're hoping that will help shore everything up while their younger people get some experience and pull this all together. But that's pretty much how the offense is going to look. I think, like I said, they're going to try and lean on the run game, see how that goes, and just hope their quarterbacks they can get one that can kind of run the offense and not screw it up too much. Defensively, they look a lot better. It looks like just on paper a really good defensive unit. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, they have, I think, what's going to be a really solid front seven. They brought over some real big guys again through the transfer portal to play in the middle of that line. I know they got a big dude from Memphis that everybody's real excited about, Cam Jackson, and just a couple others. They brought in one guy. What's his name? Is Desmond Watson. Dude's like over 400 pounds.
He's 450 pounds.
Yeah, just a giant dude that they brought in to drop in the middle of that line. So running against Florida could be a little difficult.
Yeah.
And they have a couple of their two biggest stars, I would say, right now are probably both on the defensive side of the ball. And one of those is an edge rusher. So and they actually have a couple of good options at edge rusher, but the one good one.
Princely Yuma or something.
I was gonna say I don't know.
Uman Milan.
Yeah. That sounds good. Princely Yuma Milan. Anyway,
Yeah.
he's
I was hoping
he's
you were
got.
gonna try that name.
I was about to try it. Y'all jumped in, but no, he's got a ton of talent. Now he's young. He started living up to it a bit last year, so they're hoping that just progresses and he really takes over. They have a couple other people out there. Tyreek Sapp, I know, is another one that kind of got some snaps last year and started to look better. So just good options there, I think, on the outside. Good options in the middle of the line. Their middle linebackers were looking pretty rough, but they got a transfer there again from Ohio State. And that one is, God, what is his name?
Tarada
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Tarada Mitchell, yeah.
Taraja
I think
Mitchell.
Tarada sounds good, but no. But Mitchell,
Taraja.
so
Taraja Mitchell. There you go.
Torado, like Gino Torado or whatever. The
Taraja.
Fast
Taraja,
and the
maybe,
Furious.
Taraja. It's
family is
DJ.
everything.
It's,
We're going to be a
Toretto.
Florida Gators
Tom Toretto,
family.
yeah. anyway, he was a 4-star linebacker coming out of high school who actually played all right. So I think
Tom Toretto would actually enroll at Georgia with all these speeding tickets.
Hey, Chris Marshall actually got
That was
thrown off the
terrible.
team
I
at
like
Ole
it.
Miss for Fast and the Furious type stuff. So
Ooh.
that actually literally happened, and that's the reason he's off the team in Oxford.
Nice.
Go figure, right?
Well, yeah, just I don't know. But just
I
kind of round
think-
this out.
Go ahead.
Their other best player on their defense is the guy who I think a lot of people are expecting to be like a 1st or 2nd round pick, and that's at corner. And he should be he should have one side locked down. I do, and let's see, what was it? Oh, the other side actually I thought was going to be kind of a question mark, but they got a recruit or a transfer from Georgia, so you may remember him, Jalen Kimber, who looks like he's kind of going to shore up the other side. So they've got good corners, and they've got.
Tough one to lose.
Yeah, I can understand because he looks pretty solid. So
He's
I think-
big. He's got a big frame, physical guy, pretty fast. I mean, pretty sporty. Georgia just got log jammed at corner, and he just wasn't.
well, Florida
got stuck-
apparently very
He
much
got
benefited
stuck
from
behind
that, so-
Kamari Lassiter and so he decided it was best for him to transfer.
And we'll talk about Georgia next
Yeah.
week.
Well,
Yeah.
Kimber will get to play next to Jason Marshall, so they, who like I said, should be a 1st or 2nd round pick. So they've got good corners, but their safeties are real young, and their backup, like any depth at corner in secondary, is all really young. They brought in a ton of talent, but it's all extremely young. So if either one of those corners gets hurt, or if they just you get good at game planning to get around those corners, I think that's where their biggest weakness is going to come in. So really creative offensive talents like maybe Tennessee, people like that. Might be able to get some room there, but for the most part, it should be a pretty decent defense. So, I mean, how are we finishing these? Are we going to predict records, or we're just saying that's
No. We're just good. You just when
Okay.
you're done.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty
Yeah,
much what I
so
saw from them offensively and defensively.
And I'm going to transition us around here. Like it pains me to say that I actually feel bad for Billy Napier because Dan Mullen has screwed him over so bad that we don't know if Napier can actually coach because these teams have been pretty bare. The cupboards have been bare with these teams, but I think I think he's done well in the transfer portal, so that should help him out.
It does seem like just researching him, he's brought in a lot of transfer talent that's going to have to actually play this year. So, so we'll see if that works out or not. And they're recruiting well this year, so if he can restock those cupboards, they'll get much better eventually. Sure, I mean, I think he's going to be okay, but this year,
I think he saved himself a little bit. It's going to be kind of rough this year, but I think they're getting the last bit of the Dan Mullen era just kind of behind them.
Yeah.
And so if Florida's patient with Billy Napier, we can actually probably see this year is going to be probably his best coaching job if he can get them to a bowl, if he can get them to about 7 wins, 8 wins, maybe.
7 wins would be a good season, I think, here.
Yeah, and one thing that this season is going to come down to is they missed out on Devin Leary, they missed out on Sam Hartman, and they ended up with Graham Mertz, and that is what this season is going to be for Florida, because this season would have been completely different prospect-wise if they got Sam Hartman or Devin Leary to play quarterback down there.
Oh, if they were almost going to get Devin Leary, that would have been a game changer. I mean, you know how I feel about Devin Leary. I feel that similarly about Sam Hartman. Those two would have instantly made them good.
Yeah.
It would have instantly made them viable.
And Jack Miller's got talent. He's not he didn't come in as like a 5-star or anything, but he's still definitely got talent. So
I mean, honestly,
it just depends on
I
what
think
happens.
that's the route to go. I mean, it's going to be a tough year, so you might as well see what you got with him.
No, Jack
Yeah.
Miller sounds like the name of a procedural cop on TV.
Yeah, it does. They got him, and then
That maybe is running
Yeah,
hard
Jason
times
Marshall
and he's trying to come back.
Yeah,
Jason Marshall is their premier corner. Yeah, it's like real easy names, and then suddenly it's like Princely Umla Mama Mala and Tajay, and I don't know. It's all over the place with them.
Taraja Mitchell.
I don't know what it
Taraja,
is, but
yeah.
Jack Miller makes me think of that old TV show back in the 80s, Sledgehammer.
Mhm.
It makes me think of a 1998 jam band, like Dispatch.
Lord.
Cool.
He's like the third front man of Black Sabbath or something like that. Jack
No.
Miller.
No, definitely not that cool. He's like the third. He's like the
No,
third front man
the
for
third
like
front man. Everybody knows the first two, like Ozzy and Ronnie James Dio, but nobody knows the third guy because the band was done at that point.
he sounds like the second guy for the Silver Sun Pickups.
Lord.
The
Well,
guy
y'all
that
go do some
replaced
research on
Jason
that one.
Isbell with the
Mhm.
drive-by truckers.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you guys
Well,
have to
it'll
research
probably be
Silver
Graham
Sun
versus
Pickups.
Jerry Wade, but
No, it shouldn't be. But okay,
it shouldn't. But
Jake, tell us about Mizzou.
All right, so researching Missouri, I kind of see where their fans have been so frustrated with, I guess, the lack of direction the team has gone the last several seasons. Because if you remember, when they first joined the SEC, they went on a 23-5 run, and they won 2 SEC championships, or SEC East championships, and they played in the SEC championship game. They got beat both times, but at least they made it. They came within a loss to Auburn for playing in the 2014 BCS championship. And then when there's in the Big 12, they came within a loss, a championship win there to play in the 2007 national championship. So, I see where their frustrations come from. Barry Odom, his last 3 seasons, he had a 21-17 record. They never won a bowl game, though. So it kind of hurt him. They got rid of him, brought in Eli Jankowicz. And since then, they are 17-19, 0 bowl wins, and they got that one of those losses in the bowl was to Army. So that's very embarrassing. So I see the frustration. But Missouri fans, there is hope because, offensively, you needed some firepower and better playmaking, play calling. So you bring in Kirby Moore from Fresno State, who averaged, his passing attack averaged 271 yards per game, and their starting quarterback was out for 4 games. Even they still had a really good attack. The QB situation. This is where it's going to get tricky. You got to figure out who your quarterback's going to be. Brady Cook, you had him all year last year, but he only finished with 14 touchdown passes. Need a little bit more, at quarterback to be a playmaker. And 6 of those touchdown passes come against New Mexico State and Abilene Christian. So that's not really great, to only have 7 touchdown passes or 8 from SEC and other teams. So you bring in Jake Garcia coming in from Miami. He might be able to make the, get the starting job. You got to get more out of your running game. The running game was really efficient last year. They averaged 156 yards per game. Cody Schrader comes back. He led the team last year with 744 yards and 9 scores. You also have a veteran, Nathaniel Pete, there. So you have options there on the offense to get some firepower. You also still have your great wide receivers. Yes, Lovett's gone, but you still have Luther Burden there and Mookie Cooper. So, and you bring in Theo Weiss from Oklahoma, allows Burden to, go different directions on the field, slot, play outside. You can use him a little bit more in your passing attack.
Ooh, you revealed you're a
Defensively.
Missouri fan. Hit him with a weed.
No, I did my research. I just did my research like I was supposed to. So, defensively, they were really good at getting to the backfield. They was 4th in the SEC in total defense. So, I mean, the interior is really strong, and they got playmakers back there. They bring back a dangerous core of linebackers. Teron Harper comes back. He was second on the team with 78 tackles, 14 tackles for loss. So that was huge. And then Chad Bailey also returns, who made 57 tackles, and he's in the middle. And the secondary is loaded with veterans. You've got Ennis Rakestraw Jr., who's back there. Chris Abrams, Drain, I believe is Drainey is how you say his name.
He's an Alabama kid.
He's back there. Yeah. He had 14 pass deflections last year. So they are, they're really, really good and really deep on at defense. Here's one thing I found really that will put into perspective for you Missouri fans. When Missouri had over 224 yards passing last year, they were 5-1. They were 1-6 when they didn't. So you need to find a quarterback who's going to get you at least 225 yards, because historically that set up well for you last year. When you didn't get it, you struggled. So Jake Garcia to me feels like that guy, and he, so that QB situation is going to be fun to watch in camp if you're a Missouri Tiger fan.
All right. That's a really, really good preview. This is like the quarterback battle there. And if you don't know the backstory on Jake Garcia, he's the one that went from California to Valdosta, was then ruled ineligible, and then later played for a different school in Georgia before signing at Missouri or transfer. No,
he went to Miami, then transferred.
Went to Miami, then transferred to Missouri. Yeah, that's right. See, it's so many twists and turns. You forget one of them, and boom. But so this is going to, this is Eli Drinkwitz's year. I mean, I know we've put him on the hot seat just about every year, and he's somehow survived. I guess Missouri hadn't figured out that he's losing, but they're ranked below Vandy for least intimidating, or they're ranked above Vandy for least intimidating home stadiums.
Which, by the way, I did not make friends that night.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. So, like, somebody's not noticing what's going on there. So,
well, yeah, they definitely don't notice. They don't notice they lost. Maybe they don't know the rules of football. I mean, they're not an SEC school. I mean, Missouri is. Yeah, I mean, so maybe they just don't know what's going on, and they think they're doing really, really well. I don't know.
I will say when they won the East a couple of times, the East was down. I mean, Georgia was kind of struggling. Florida, I don't think had really good teams. Tennessee was a disaster back then. So I mean, it was Missouri who took it those 2 years. But since then, it's been Georgia and Florida for the most part. Recently, mainly Georgia.
I like James Franklin and Jeremy Macklin and those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gary Pinkel had it going. He really had it going for about a 5-year period.
Yeah.
They need to go back to. Can we trade Missouri for like Kansas State?
Honestly, if the SEC expands, I would be down with them getting Kansas, but just so Missouri'd have something to play with.
Steve making friends over there. So we're at the halfway point of our team previews here. Before we really get off the rails, I want to let you know, hey, Ole Miss fans, our friends at DeadSoxy have a unique way for you to get back your favorite. Let me start that over, because I can't read apparently. So, hey, Ole Miss fans, our friends at DeadSoxy have a unique way for you to back your favorite team. By subscribing to Ole Miss NIL sock subscription, you'll get the latest, freshest socks and also directly support Ole Miss athletics. You're not just a subscriber, you are a member. As a member, you get perks like top priority access to new Ole Miss socks, a standing 25% discount, and most importantly, free shipping. Plus, you can score a free pair of limited edition Juice Kiffin socks when you sign up. No membership fees, no fuss. Pause, skip, or cancel at any time. Just add a pair of NIL socks to your cart and set your delivery frequency, and you're all set. So head to DeadSoxy.com now and join the Ole Miss NIL subscription.
Steven, you look different.
Steve, you got a beard and a Tennessee fan now.
What the? What happened? This is This is a wild show.
This is a very wild show. Let's see. Steve is in the playing magical squares here. So, DeadSoxy.com. Stay Soxy. We're also presented by BetOnline.ag. As Steve is in his black screen of death here. We are also presented by BetOnline.ag. Yes, we are here. BetOnline.ag. You can get all of your sports betting needs, live bets, props, futures, anything you want, any sport or event that you want. BetOnline.ag has it. They have everything. So you can bet on your Heisman odds. You can bet on your NL MVP odds. You can bet on over and unders now, the Texas Rangers baseball now that Max Scherzer got traded. You can bet on the Charlotte Hornets when the NBA cranks back up. You can bet on the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know why you would, but you could. So all of that at betonline.ag. Plus, they have an online casino, so you can play blackjack, craps, roulette, whatever you want to play. So head to the website. You can also hop on your mobile device. I'm pretty sure there's an app. Type in that promo code when you sign up. Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So betonline.ag, it's where the game starts. So since Steve is not here, I guess I'm going to have to talk about Vandy.
Yep, you're next.
We're going to preview the Vanderbilt Commodores. Okay, probably the most least interesting team in all of college football. Clark Lee is beginning year 3. He comes in with a 7-17 record. Last year was a vast improvement, 5-7 overall, 2-6 in conference, with huge wins over Florida and Kentucky. So for Vandy, we've talked about them. The goal is to go bowling, right? They dominated Florida, which any win over 3 points is a domination for Vandy. They beat Kentucky. They terrorized Will Levis last year, and so they're going to look to build on that. All right. And first, it's going to start with the offense and the quarterback, AJ Swan, dude. He is, when you watch him play football, it is absolutely outstanding. The offense only averaged 347 yards and 25 points per game. They've got some things to work on as far as generating first downs and points and things like that. But he is somebody that they can build around. It seemed like when he took over the starting quarterback job last year, everything went up. Mike Wright was the team's second leading rusher, but he's at Mississippi State now, so you don't have to worry about that. So Swan is the main guy. There's no competition there.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, so the thing that Swan needs to improve on, if he wants to, and I think he will, is he needs to improve his accuracy a little bit. I think throwing 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions is good, but I think he can. I think he can be better. You could see his intangible qualities in the Florida game and in the Kentucky game. Led the team down the field, led the team throughout those whole games, and kept them from doing the Vandy, which is collapsing and folding and letting those teams come back and win. So that'll be fun. The receiving core, Will Shepherd, he was the team's leading receiver with 60 receptions and 776 yards and 9 of those 10 touchdowns from AJ Swan. He is a true deep threat. They have a bunch of other receivers coming back as well. The offensive line is coming back. Julian Henderson is the centerpiece of that, which is funny because he's actually the center. And so he's going to be the leader of that offense. Ray Davis is off. They lose Ray Davis. That's probably the biggest loss that Vandy had. He transferred to Kentucky. Patrick Smith, Chase Gillespie didn't combine for much. Ray Davis got most of the work, but they should, when you add Cedric Alexander, they should have a nice 1-2-3 punch there in the backfield. And hopefully you'll see Vandy. I think with a little bit more experience coming back, some of these guys playing together, I think in the same system, will do much better. And I think the rushing attack should be good with those three. I'm looking forward to Cedric Alexander really making some headway here. He is shifty, quick, kind of an explosive style runner. And so that'll be fun to watch as Vandy tries to go balling defensively. Okay. Well, it can get ugly at times if you're Vanderbilt, they lack depth back there. And I think that's, when you look at teams like Vandy, when you look at teams like Arkansas and Tennessee and things like that, you look at the depth and say, okay, if they sustain a couple of injuries, it's going to get ugly here. So, but again, that's Clark Lee's side of the ball. He came up as a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, had some college football playoff type performances throughout the season, throughout his time at Notre Dame. He was a big part of what Brian Kelly was doing up there in South Bend before he left. So, look for this side of the ball to improve. So, the good news is they can't get much worse. They finished 122nd in the nation in total defense, 124th in scoring defense, and they allowed 461 yards and 36 points per game.
Good Lord.
So they can only go up.
Yeah, nowhere to go but up.
But where do those yards come from? Where do those points come from? Well, they don't have a pass rush, right? They only had 17 sacks on the year. The whole year as a team. 14 of them coming in a 5-game stretch. No one did anything of note. But defensive tackle Christian James led the team with 3 sacks. There's Anias DeCosmo. He's a transfer from Stanford. And Prince Colley, transfer from Notre Dame. Those two guys are going to come in and bring some much-needed help to this pass rush and defensive line. They will be hybrid defenders, so they're going to be kind of getting after a little bit. James returns on the inside, of course, and then it's up to the rest of the rotation. But those guys are going to be the centerpieces of that defensive front. James was the best. He also had 7.5 tackles for loss. So Christian James was really their entire defense. But CJ Taylor should provide some much-needed support from the outside linebacker position, as well as Devin Lee can be disruptive up on the front. So the pressure will have to end up coming from several spots. They're going to have to get creative with their schemes, okay? Anthony Orji, he's gone. It's going to be tough to replace him. He made 107 tackles last year. CJ Taylor, thankfully for them, was second with 59. So that's a big, big gap. So it's going to be up to Kane Patterson and Ethan Barr at the inside linebacker spot to try to fill the shoes left by Anthony Orji. So that's going to be tough to do. But again, 2 talented players there. Kane Patterson from right up the road at CPA. So that's going to be a position where you look at and you're just like, okay, they're going to have to figure out linebacker. They're going to have to get creative here. Okay, but secondary, Jalen Mahoney, he is he fills the stats up, which being the 124th ranked defense in scoring and 122 in total defense. I don't know what stat sheet he's filling up, but probably not the right ones. But at the safety position, Jalen Mahoney, again, can only get better. DeRicky Wright will also work. He can work kind of as a hybrid safety, outside linebacker, alley player. So that'll be interesting there. Corners Tyson Russell and BJ Anderson also come in with a little bit of experience. But again, when you look at this defense, is experience really what you want? I don't know. Maybe you need some new blood in there. I don't know, but they're going to look at a few of these guys. But I think the 2 transfers, Anias DeCosmo and Prince Colley, are going to be the 2 that I think are going to be the keys to this defense. Can they bring some leadership from outside to kind of put all of this together? Can the defensive scheme finally click for these guys on that side of the ball? Of course, as I said, they can only go up. So what's going to happen? Well, we put their over-under at about, 5.5?
Yeah, that sounds good, actually.
Yeah. And with the new clock rules, I think it favors Vandy because they have the ability and they have the way their offense is built. They could get in some games where they're kind of slowing things down and or actually speeding the game up by running the ball and limiting possessions, and that could be something that they could do. So I'm looking at Cedric Alexander to be the main guy in that, of course. So that's going to be good. Rocco Griffin's also a key loss. He went to the Roadrunners as a running back.
BB.
Go figure. Meep. All right, so their key game is actually going to happen on September 9th when they travel to Wake Forest. This will be the game that's either going to launch them into a bowl, because I think if they can win that game, that'll get them the much needed momentum they have to actually get to that 6th win. Even though that'll probably be their 3rd win if they win that one, but or their 2nd win because it's September 9th. But it's at Wake Forest. That'll be an interesting game there. That'll kind of get their season off and running. So some other fun stats in the first quarter. Vanderbilt was outscored 113-65. Opponents were averaging 15.2 yards on punt return average versus Vanderbilt's 4.7. And Vanderbilt was 7 of 12 attempting field goals. So that's got to improve too. If they can improve some of that stuff, they can hit the over on their win total.
Is the girl still kicking for them?
No.
Okay.
No, thankfully for them, they're not. Not still kicking.
I'm going to have to do a speed preview.
Yeah, Corey, long-winded Corey there.
Well, what do you expect?
I was gonna say, I know a lot about Vanderbilt now. I like it.
Yeah.
South Carolina, Garnet, Black. Okay, they beat Tennessee, beat Clemson. We're wondering about Spencer Rattler. They lost some pieces. They got Trey Knox. Okay, I'm done.
Great
And
preview.
nailed it. Yes.
Boom.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
When we preview Ole Miss, we'll have to just have a special show for Steve because that's all he'll talk about.
Well, when Steve
It'll be the long-winded one.
when Steve previews Ole Miss, we'll just put a link up to his Locked On
Right.
Ole Miss channel. We'll just kick back and
Yeah.
Yeah, when we preview Georgia,
God.
we might have to have like a 4.5 hour show by Corey.
I've at least practiced enough.
This,
where I can cut
this
that
is
one
the
down.
3rd string left guard.
Yeah.
That's gonna make a difference on scout team. I'm gonna be breaking down the scout team, so get ready for that. All right, Steve. In all seriousness, go. South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, and I am going to be brief with this one because South Carolina is good, but a lot of the hype that South Carolina gets is because of what they did against Tennessee and what they did against Clemson. Before that, they were a problem. Everybody was concerned about Spencer Rattler, who has more talent than you can even imagine, but he has to unlock it. So if he can, we get to find out, much like LSU with Jaden Daniels, we get to find out if that 3-game stretch was the norm for Spencer Rattler, the new normal, or is he going to regress back to what he was?
Mm-hmm.
Now, South Carolina lost some transfers, tight end, running back, some players that went off to do other things. So they've had to rebuild. They've got Trey Knox from Arkansas. So I mentioned that before. Good player. It's going to be an interesting situation. They've got a lot of work just to be decent defensively. And this feels like it could be a major Achilles heel even for super swag Shane Beamer, which I can't believe that he even has that nickname. I mean, and them not doing it ironically. But the linebackers are okay, and the safeties didn't get much of a help from pass rush, so they have to figure out how to get to the quarterback. I mean, that's what they have to do at the moment. Now, the keys to the season for South Carolina is going to be take care of the football. It's really simple A-B football that we're talking about with South Carolina. If they can get turnovers, they can affect the other team and the outcome of it. If they give it away, they're not going to be in many games. Their top transfer portal is Trey Knox. Jordan Birch has left for Oregon. Lots of players went to Oregon, by the way, this offseason.
I did.
Dan Lanning.
Um,
Dan Lanning.
Yeah. The key player, Nick Gargiulo, as a guard. Their key player is a guard. That should tell you everything you need to know. Their key game is their opener against North Carolina and Charlotte. And these are their top 10 best players, okay? Antoine Wells is a wide receiver, is their number one. Number two is Spencer Rattler. They put Spencer Rattler number two. Tonka Hemingway, a tackle.
That's what he's going to do against Georgia's defense.
Trey Knox, Jordan Straken. There's a whole lot of players, and these are all upperclassmen as well. There's no young players that are really popping up at the moment. So we'll see exactly what happens. After reading this and doing this preview, I don't know how I feel about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Honestly, they set the over-under win total at 7, and if they don't beat North Carolina, how do they get there?
Couple of injuries that thing could get to 2 or 3 real quick.
Yeah. It's one of those things where South Carolina could have a very disappointing season, but all of this hype that basically South Carolina has going into this season, it kind of makes me wonder if it just wasn't them beating a bad Clemson team. And that Tennessee game was so weird.
Yeah, Tennessee on just a bad day.
That was just
Hooker wasn't playing that game. He was hurt, right?
No,
yeah,
Hooker
that's when he got hurt in
that
the game.
He got hurt in the game.
But it was at the end of the game.
That's
Yeah,
true.
well,
It
yeah, it was far enough along that
Yeah.
that was not the reason that they lost. No.
That was a decade's worth of frustration unleashed.
Yeah.
But those orange helmets were fire. I loved them. They'll
Yeah.
never wear them again because they got boat raced, but I liked them.
Yeah, that was a good touch. Like, I'm finally glad to see Tennessee mess with the helmet a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside of just the Smokies.
And I like the black helmets. Those the midnight helmets or whatever they're called.
Yeah, the black and orange is nice. But I did like the orange a lot too. I agree.
Maybe they
But
should
like
just
I
go
said-
black and orange. That's a I can live with that. That's a
I
pretty hard
need
color
Tennessee to
combination.
wear that orange helmet and wear traffic cone uniforms. I need that like oxygen.
Oh, that would be
I don't think they'll do that, but
That would be just the pinnacle of ridiculous.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
It
Absolutely,
would be
fantastic.
very fantastic. But yeah, so South Carolina's thanks to their creative team, their social media creative team, they're getting a lot of hype. They have a great social media team, by the way.
Yeah.
Some of the videos they've come out with.
It's kind of funny that the social media and everything, you can have momentum just completely based off of your social media team. It can have no substance whatsoever, but you know what the sad thing is right now? You don't have to have it.
Yeah.
You don't. And the example of that is this right here.
Mhm.
Because I see South Carolina, I see nothing but problems. And all of a sudden people talking about them being third or fourth in the East.
Yeah, secretly, like they very quietly somehow lost a lot of transfers.
Mhm.
Nobody's talking about that.
Including to Florida State, who's going to be really good this year.
Yeah.
I think Florida State has a chance to beat LSU in that first game. And then everybody's going to say, oh, FSU is good. Well, it just may be that LSU is not. But Florida State is going to be good.
Yeah, I think Jordan Travis is in some Heisman talks.
Yeah.
LSU's getting a lot of hype. It'll be interesting to see if that's real or not. But we'll preview them at another time.
Yeah, and we'll preview Alabama. Everybody looks at me. I put my predictions out of Alabama winning the West, and they're like, well, why didn't you pick LSU? I was like, the game's in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU needed a 2-point conversion to beat them in Baton Rouge.
And they think, I mean, Alabama, like I think just because they lost Bryce Young, who's killing it for the Panthers right now, just because they lost Bryce Young, that they're going to go 5-7 all of a sudden.
Yeah. We lost both games last year by combined 5 points.
Like,
Alabama had the weirdest season in the world last year
Mm-hmm.
because they were literally 2 plays away from winning the national championship and 2 plays away from going to the Music City Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's the Bill Bryan
and that's
effect.
that's a fan looking in too. Outside fan looking in. You just try to be in it.
Yeah.
It was a weird season.
So bizarre.
But they still have a ton of talent. But the things that you question with Alabama, not to get into a full Alabama preview, but the things you question with Alabama is how's this new coordinator going to handle, like the quarterback position can ruin a lot of things for you if you don't get it right. And more so than any other position. And the coordinator quarterback combination has got to be the right fit. Like for Bryce Young, when he had Sark, great fit.
Yeah.
When he didn't, brutal.
So I figure the next episode we will do
let's go over to the West.
the other three teams in the SEC East and Auburn. Because they're 7th in the West in garbage.
Amen.
22 is doing Auburn.
I guess I'll take Auburn.
Well, you're not going to take Georgia?
I was going to say, I think you got Georgia. I was assuming.
Jeb's got Tennessee.
Yeah,
So.
I figured our 2%.
I think Jake should do Auburn.
Jake should definitely do Auburn. I forgot we were doing Georgia. I thought we were just going to let. Okay. Yeah.
And I'll take Kentucky, or Jake can take Kentucky, and I'll get Auburn, because literally on the Auburn Discord of the Locked On Auburn website, I had a game that I said, hey, Auburn probably has a chance to get it to beat Ole Miss in this game because of all the craziness that is likely going to happen. I had Auburn fans saying that I'm just absolutely serious, that I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm just a fool. And I was like, did you not watch the video? Because I'm starting to wonder if I was.
Gosh.
You've convinced me. I'm wrong.
Yeah. I am incorrect.
I'm incorrect. Auburn will not beat Ole Miss. Okay. All right. I'll correct myself. Jeez. Yeah.
I'll take
She
Auburn.
didn't say beat the brakes off of. That's what made him mad.
Yeah. All I know, if Ole Miss pulls out that game this year, and that's going to be a very weird game. I guarantee it's going to be like 7:30 at Jordan-Hare. There's going to be the horseshoes, the whole 9 yards in that stadium. And if Ole Miss wins that game, Ole Miss and Auburn doesn't play in 2024. You talk about Steve Willis feeling himself. Auburn fan. Oh my goodness.
Shoot.
They already broke out stats of what Bo Jackson did against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss last year, the last data point, ran for 450 yards.
Golly.
So it's like, okay, you're bringing up a 60-year-old man is not helping your argument.
It's not. It's not. It is not. Did you bring up Ben Obamanu?
No. I don't bring up anything with them. They're the ones that bring it up. I just say what happened.
Well, that happened. He dropped a pass.
Not last year.
And Ole Miss won that game.
That happened 20 years ago.
Well, you have to, yeah.
That, to me, that doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really.
Yeah.
Just being petty at that point.
Yeah, if somebody's kids can be playing in the game right now, that game doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's what happened last year.
Oh, fun thing before we get out of here tonight, and this is for all the Tennessee fans that I'm waiting to kick that anthill over to get y'all in there. Just remember, there's no high school kids that knows what it's like for Tennessee to beat Ole Miss.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fun. Yeah, so okay.
Watch those ants scatter. So, on that note, we're going to leave you right there. We hope you had a great time listening to our show. We hope now that you're very well educated on Vandy, Missouri, South Carolina, and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Vandy definitely has an interesting team, that's for sure. So we are thanks, Van. We are SEC After Dark, presented by DeadSoxy and BetOnline.ag. we are going to see you back here next week. Back here better than ever. Check us out on the YouTube channel. Also, check us out anywhere you find your podcast. Don't forget, we have an audio version so that if you're in your car driving around, you can actually listen to our show. Not live, obviously, but you can click on and listen to our show.
You don't have to see our face. That's a positive.
Mm-hmm.
That is a positive. You just have to hear our voices. I don't know what's worse.
Although my DeadSoxy display, whenever I'm doing show and tell, you can't really do that.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
you can't do
Yeah.
that. But me rubbing my last two brain cells together to try to make that second read was very descriptive. I couldn't put my two brain cells together there in that first sentence. It was bad.
That happens sometimes. I read a lot, and every now and then I have to just start over.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Did I just?
Well, it certainly happened there. So also catch us later in the week with 1923 rewatch episode. So that's going to be look forward to that as well. Episode 6. It's going to be a banger.
Yeah, Did's in the dugout. The Derek Vandergriff show dropped. He was the first person that debuted a podcast that wasn't already doing one.
Jeb.
I'm working on it.
Sets design there, bro.
Yeah.
And now I'm about to leave town for a month, just so we're clear on this.
Oh my gosh.
You can get StreamYard on your phone. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, maybe StreamYard. I couldn't do YouTube Shorts. We learned that.
Yeah.
Well, you can do YouTube Shorts from StreamYard.
It's because you don't have a phone. You have the opposite of like the flip phone from
Yeah, I was the one that folded down the nice big tablet.
Good Lord. It's not a
But
phone. That's a mini computer.
That's the problem. They count it as a tablet, so some apps don't work right. I didn't know that when I bought it.
Jesus Christ. All right, that'll do it. Jeb's weak phone. We are SEC After Dark, presented by DeadSoxy. We hope you see you back here next week. Join us on Friday. And as always, go Dogs.
Potty
Vols.
Roll Tide.